What do I do? Preferences?
I clicked on the tick mark next to the microphone.
Evan, can you hear me?
Hey, now I can.
Beautiful.
Thank you.
It's amazing how often rebooting is the answer.
Yeah, you'd think we'd have figured it out by now, right?
No kidding. How are you?
No offense to you IT professionals.
No, indeed.
Good. I'm good. How are you?
I'm alive and kicking. It's got to
Yes.
count for something.
A little bit of a low bar, but it is worth something.
Yes. So I have a question for you.
Yeah.
Do you have any idea how to capture the presenter's key on one of these meetings?
The presenter's key? I don't understand the question, which might not be a good sign.
Well, I'm not surprising, really. So, Sherry sent me an email which lays out how to. Let me just put that in another. Put that in another window to make it easier to see. The host key. Okay, Zoom. You will not be able to claim the host until Zoom lets you in. Please remember to turn on closed captioning.
If you're asking me for advice on software, we have a problem.
Yeah, I'm with you.
Because I got no idea, Brian.
Yes, closed captioning is now turned on. So that's good. Click on participants at the bottom of the screen. All right, so I do that. Good, there we are. And now ostensibly, no, okay. Invite, raise hand, either, okay. So that's interesting. Her email says at the bottom of that window with the participants, you will see a series of boxes that will say invite, raise hand, and either claim host or 3 dots. I get invite and mute me, and that's it.
Yeah, I got invite and copy invite link. It's probably a permissions thing. They have a,
Probably didn't make me the host.
hello?
Right.
Maybe she didn't make you the host.
Well, I'm wondering that if I could turn on closed captioning if I wasn't the host.
I know, good point. I don't know.
Try to turn it off.
How do I do that? Participants? Oh, show captions.
Yeah.
Subtitle settings.
I just hit the button rather than the little arrow to the right of it.
Oh no, it turned it on. It looks like for me, so that it spits back subtitles to me, but I can't turn it on or off.
Yeah, I'm getting kind of the same thing.
Pretty
We're gonna do the best we can with what we've got. Is what's gonna happen here.
Yeah.
All right. So, what did you think of the budget as presented? Were you surprised by anything?
Yeah. Do you have your screen up? Oh,
I'm not sharing yet.
share? I was gonna let because I know we were sort of expecting some surprises on this one,
Yes.
and I don't remember what they were.
Son of a bitch. So I don't have it, and it won't let me share.
But that's all right. I'll find it. That's not a problem.
It says host disabled participant screen sharing.
Is Todd with us or joining us?
I believe that he is. Everybody said that they would be joining us.
Yeah, I don't see Stefan though. Let me just dig this up, Ryan.
Yep, take your time. Oh, you know what I can do is Google it. How to claim
February
host.
2nd. There we go. Yeah, but Brian, I haven't done a deep dive on this yet.
Okay,
I kind of like to let the department head present, and then I'll take it in and then consider it in that context. It's kind of, because I'm looking at it, it's not all necessarily evident what's going on. These are time options. That's not what I need.
I was mostly just looking at the numbers themselves. And it's going to be interesting to see what Todd has to say for sure.
Spreadsheet attached.
Hey, guys,
Hello.
Hey.
just joining in. I was working with Sherry on some things here.
Yep. Hey, Stefan.
Hey there, good evening.
So I am not currently the host. Maybe I can claim host now, but I don't see a way to do that. The instructions said if you click on, oh, you're the host, Todd.
Yeah, what's going to happen is we'll use this for this meeting here. If we go into executive session, then Sherry's going to send a new link out.
Did we even, I didn't peek at the agenda. Did we even put it on the agenda for an
We
executive?
did.
session? Oh, okay, cool. All right. Yeah, I don't want to take too much of your time there, Todd. I don't want to like stick my nose where it doesn't belong, but I just remember that being
No, it's no problem at
an
all.
important thing. That
You
we
just
talked
stick your nose wherever you want to.
about. Well,
All right. So I think the first thing we have to do is I need to call the meeting to order, which I will do at 5:06 in the PM. And I know who's here. All right. And I've got the agenda. Just to be sure. Yes, it says possible executive session at the end. So we're good to go. All right, so Todd, would it be possible for you to go through, so parliamentarily, we have no members of the public, so I don't think we have to open that up to anybody. Do any of y'all have any questions to start?
I do not.
no, I
Seeing
figured,
none.
go ahead and present it.
Okay, Todd, you want to go
Okay.
ahead and tell us what you got?
Right, so the major changes that we have, which you highlighted as well, we have the category, we're basically going to Office 365, Microsoft 365, and that's going to be a big hit on the operating budget. We also have software maintenance going up a little bit as we're expanding our online permitting. Aside from that, we have basic increases like I think Steve's keeping the town, we're at a 3% increase for cost of living for salaries. Computer maintenance pretty much stays the same. Software maintenance, as we saw, is like always going up. Munis is a killer. And we have training is pretty.
How much was the increase in the munis?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear it.
How much was the increase in munis specifically?
So Munis is usually it's like a 5% increase or 3% increase.
But it was more than that this year. And I ran into a discrepancy. And that is the munis total for fiscal year 24 ask is 92,620, 92,620. Is that what you have, Todd?
Yeah.
And when you look at how that value is calculated, it is just 5% of 1.05 times the previous year.
Right.
So I went through and made a copy of that all the data from that spreadsheet. And when I did calculations on the numbers in the spreadsheet, rather than just saying 5% more than last year, I came up with not 63,000, but with 72,000 for the 24 ask. And I'd be happy to show you that. But if we, even in the sheet that you have, if you highlight the all the values that are Tyler Technology. So that's a good question. Is everything that is the vendor is Tyler Technologies, is all of that Munis, or is there some of it which is non-Munis?
No, correct. That is all Munis.
Okay, so when I just highlight those, the sum is that all of them? The sum is 88,327 for all the Tyler Technologies ones.
I have the 92,620.
Right, so the 92,620 is what it says down below, but that is calculated as 1.05 times last year.
Oh, but I get that as even highlighting all of the ones above.
And this is, right, so, okay, let me just do that again. Oh, got it that time. Maybe I wasn't up high enough. All right, so it is 92 there. And then what was I on about? Maybe I'm just.
Oh, so I think it was
It's the other
software products.
Yes, it is the other software products that where the calculation is misfiring somehow.
Right.
So my point is, if you go to all the other stuff, guys, and highlight that, and these are all the 2024 non-Tyler Technologies line items, starting with Patriot Properties Assess Pro, which is number 22 on that list, and you add them up, it's 72,967 rather than 63,079, which is what the number is in that spreadsheet. Is that what you see also, Todd?
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm hoping we can figure that out.
Looks like there's a hard-coded item in there for OpenGov.
That's the one. Yeah, that's the big change that we had.
But even still, okay, so let's just take a look at that.
It's still 72. Yeah, so I
Right.
think that 63K that we have listed there on line 52,
Mm-hmm.
that is just a calculation of the total for FY23 multiplied by 5%.
Yes.
Right. That should just be, instead, that should be a subtotal, an actual subtotal of the entries above.
Which I think instead comes to 72,967.58.
Right.
And but that would be correct if it were not for that OpenGov.
Right, because I think all the other calculations are also, basically 1.05 times whatever it was last year. So it makes sense that then the calculation at the bottom would work, unless, as you astutely pointed out, somebody went into OpenGov, for example, and changed that number to not a calculation of 1.05 times the previous year.
Yeah, so we had there was an entry before that, and we got the actual right back before we sent this out. So Kevin reduced that for me. But the total at the very bottom, it doesn't change the bottom line, which is good. So when we total, it's just a subtotal that's off in reporting. But the total of 165,587 doesn't change.
Which is so fascinating.
It's just really based on that calculation, right? So that one had us an actual calculation that just sums all the items up above.
Yeah, so it's just the subtotal that was incorrect, not the total.
So that doesn't really affect anything, really. Just looks a little funny.
It's a good catch though, because that could impact things going forward. Like if we didn't catch it in the next year, we base something off of that.
Yep. Good. Okay. Well done, team. Working together. Okay, so I'm sorry, Todd, just to go back then. It looks like we're looking at a 25% increase, right? From last year for the overall budget.
Yeah, if we go down. Correct.
And that is primarily in sundry charges percentage wise, which went up dramatically, like 1,000%, and contractual services is up 11%. And that's where most of it is. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, the largest one is that subscription line item under sundry charges.
And that's Office 365.
Right.
Got it. Okay.
Quick question, is that being offset by anything?
So we won't
Uh,
see, the capital expense of buying all new licenses for our hosted email, like on-prem email, or your Windows Server licenses, or even some of the hardware that would normally be refreshed through capital.
Okay.
It really just, Microsoft makes it in a way that if you want to do on-prem and manage it yourself, it's almost a break even. So it's really just shifting it from capital to operating now.
That was actually one of the questions I was going to ask is what do we have in capital for IT? And that's not anywhere in these budgets, right? Because it's in the capital budget.
Right. Okay, so we won't have a big capital ask.
Todd, I'm just curious, and forgive me if I'm making you answer a question you've already answered, but is this a for Office 365? Is this an upgrade? I assume you already have Office, right?
Yeah, we have Office, and we have licensed copies of an email server that we manage in-house. We run it on hardware and servers that we have here, but this is just moving everything to the cloud.
Okay. Is that how does that
It's an
incremental
annual,
increase break down? It's
Yeah.
annual, so that's the number we can expect
It's
going forward?
guaranteed it's gonna go up every year.
Yeah. Do you know what do you have it in like the maintenance contract, their annual escalation?
I don't.
Okay. I just assume it's probably predictable. Maybe it's not. I don't know. But I guess they're smart. If they don't make it predictable, they'll just charge you. And what are you going to do about it? That's kind of how it works, right? Yeah. Okay.
which was the reason for Prop 2.5, right?
Yeah. One of them, I'm sure. Yeah. I wasn't around for that fight, but
I mean,
yeah.
that's what it was about, was that people were like, wait a minute, the town budget just went up by 10% this year and 4% last year and
Yeah.
2% the year after that. I'm like, whoa.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah,
so that might be some, or go ahead, Stefan.
I was just going to ask, I don't know if Office 365 can be, ordered in a multi-year type of agreement to save money, or at least incorporate some predictability in the pricing year over year.
Yeah, the tough part about that is we have to approve the budget each year.
Okay.
We've looked into that before in the past, but like antivirus as well.
And we
And,
just we can't operate that way.
Yeah, we can only purchase what's being approved for that year.
Got it. And the problem would then be if we're in a multi-year contract and we decide we don't like the price a given year, it doesn't matter because we're in a multi-year contract. I mean, does it translate to then that we can't do multi-year contracts?
That's the way I was.
My understanding, and somebody correct me if I'm wrong, it's been a little while, but I thought 30B, unless this might be, is this exempt from 30B, Todd? I know you're not the procurement officer, but do you know off the top of your head?
No, I don't think it is.
So my understanding always was without either legislative approval, as in a town meeting, or maybe it's the town council. in a town form of government, but like you can't exceed a 3-year multi-year contract without some additional form of approval. I just don't remember if it's town meeting or here maybe town council, but that's one thing I remember, I think, from 30B, but memory may not be serving well. Just to that point, Brian.
So that makes sense in terms of contracts with labor unions and things like that. But I wonder if that holds also for contracts for support on software or something like, along those lines.
Yeah, I don't know for
Interesting.
sure, but I think it does, but that's not, I don't know for sure.
Well, I can bring it back and find out.
Yeah, I'm sure whoever you ran it through knew the rules. So like I heard the question. And I thought that would apply in the 30B, but yeah, I could also be dead wrong, Brian.
No, but that's a valid question. And so the interesting point then, I guess, here also is, how do we find out do they have some sort of contractual uplift each year, or is it, the whim of the year? How do we find that out?
So it did look into that, and they don't have, they give indications, but there's no set path that you can count on.
And
May I
what-
ask, who
ahead.
did you procure that Office 365 through? Was it a Microsoft government sales accounts or something of that nature?
Yeah, so we're still looking into exactly who we're going to partner up with. Some will do different onboarding. Some will onboard you for free. Some will have charge for it. But it will be someone that's on the state contract, yeah.
Okay. I can assume some organization like that, they're a little bit more understanding of the municipal market or a government market where, massive price increases year over year are just unacceptable.
Right.
Here, here. Okay, so to recap then, what we're saying is that the majority of this uptick is moving to Office 365, hosted in the cloud by Microsoft, and that ostensibly there will be some lowering of capital asks for IT software and other bits, because due to the fact that we're moving to the hosted method rather than doing it on-prem. Is that fair to say?
Correct.
Okay. Perfect. Okay. Stefan, anything else you want to find out about?
Todd, you'd mentioned that we were hosting our licenses on our own servers here locally in town.
Correct.
Are those repurposable, or do they provide the town with any savings in any other way, shape, or form that, you can essentially say like, this new Office 365 is going to cost us $71K for this year. However, this frees up some server room that will reduce our capital request in future years, something of that nature.
But that's it exactly, yeah. So it will free up capital requests in future years.
Okay.
But I think what Stefan is asking is, like, for our customers, when they're an on-prem customer and they decide to move to our managed hosted service, we give those customers a break on the licenses that they already purchased in terms of pricing for the cloud offering, to help them, move to the cloud offering, because we want them to be on a subscription yearly
Right.
payment. And it tends to be more than just support, right? But so as an inducement, we say, look, since you already own these perpetual licenses, we're going to cut you a break on your cost in your first year for the subscription.
Yeah.
Is that what you were asking, Stefan?
Oh no, actually, so that's a great point. That wasn't what I was asking. That's a perfect question for sure, especially if those licenses were perpetual in nature.
So what we've been doing is we've been thinking about this for a while and weighing the options back and forth. We've held off on upgrades, so we wouldn't be, buying something that's the most recent and then just moving away from it as well. So we're reaching the end of the usable life of the versions that we're on now.
Okay.
So well timed.
How about training? Do you anticipate any additional like training needs if we're moving to say from Office 2016 products to the 365 model?
I don't think there's gonna be a big, like a big need for massive training to everyone. For the most part, the user interface is gonna be very familiar. They might have a little bit of a difference saying, well, I used to store my files in this folder and now they're in this OneDrive folder. But I don't think our users will have any problems.
It's a really good question, though. There might also be reductions in administrative costs associated with maintaining those on-prem servers that you had before.
Yeah, we talked about that. Kevin and I did beforehand. And you will have like a lower burden with maintaining the hardware, but you still have to maintain the software, even though it's in the cloud. So we still have to manage it just as we would manage it locally. Not a big reduction, but it's more about the, I guess, the stability that you gain as well, where you now spread out across multiple data centers versus a couple data centers here in Wakefield.
Sure, I mean, that makes sense, but they're going to let you administer it up in their cloud?
Yes, well, it's a matter of like if you go hosted, it's not going fully hosted, like you're just taking an Azure server and then you install it. But you still have to maintain the users, you gotta maintain the backups, the policies that are in place on everything. There's settings involved. I mean, you're syncing back to your local domain, so there's still administration that goes on. It's not completely hands-free.
Funny, because you often hear people say you go to the cloud and you don't have to worry about any of that stuff. Not necessarily true.
Right.
Depending on the model, I guess. I'm sure that they would be happy to sell us a Cadillac version where they do it all for us.
You
Maybe not.
can get that. That's not the approach we're going to take, but
Makes sense. Okay, Mr. Kenny. Other questions?
I'm good. I mean, it seems like the big chunk is Office 365, and as I've said in past meetings of this subcommittee, I'm really not competent to get into the details of whether that's a good move or a bad. Like I don't know. I leave that to the two uniquely qualified folks. Well, to my virtual right, to deal with. So I'm not going to bore you with questions to have you give me an education on the software. I mean, it's it's really not. It's a function of trusting your expertise. So, I mean, you can't do much about the price, right? I mean, it's what it is. So, I mean, you've gone through the need already, so I don't really have much to add.
Okay, copy that. The other interesting thing to me is how salaries for the department come to over 600,000, but because of offsets from school and the enterprise funds, we end up effectively paying only 200,000 in salaries. Is that how you read it, Todd?
yeah, that's how it works. We do a lot of services work for these other departments.
And to that end, are the schools also going to the in the cloud version of Office 365?
No, so the schools have gone to Google. They went Google Docs and Google Classroom a while ago. They do have local servers, but those are mainly just for their small file shares, and they run particular apps that they might have for building management or the local Active Directory for authentication and 802.1x for Wi-Fi, and they're using for print servers, things like that. Things that wouldn't make sense to send traffic out to the cloud and come back down.
Makes sense. Yeah, I was going to ask about Active Directory. So they're doing their own there.
Yep.
Okay. And so is there, I wonder how much of the service that we provide to the schools and the enterprise funds will we lose any of our leverage in terms of getting them to give us hundreds of thousands of dollars every year to cover salaries? Or are they still going to pay all of that because in spite of they're not changing anything and they still need the services that they need? Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah, so we're only, with the schools in particular, we're contracted just for certain portions like Windows Server administration or infrastructure management, surveillance assistance. So we don't do anything with their Google Docs or Google Classroom, unless there's staff that handles all of that. We assist with the Wi-Fi with the backend infrastructure, but they manage all the Wi-Fi. So we have particular things that we're tasked with, and that's what those chargebacks are based upon. If they were ever going to change, then we'd take a look at how that would impact the department and what that, we would have to take a look at if there are any cuts needed or if there are any different services we could sell elsewhere.
But to your mind at this point, there is no need to worry about them squawking about what they pay because they will continue to get what they always got. And the move to Office 365 by the town is not going to affect that in any way.
Yeah, so our networks are completely separate. So what we do, how we manage ours is completely separate on how they're managing theirs.
Right, but they're giving us money for something.
Oh, yeah. But it's not for the resources that we have in the town.
Mhm.
It's not like our town email server licenses or our town Windows servers are used for the schools. They have their own copies of Windows servers with their EDU pricing. It's really just a separate network. We do share some core switches for routing, and we're done in paths, but we kind of just jump in and help them manage their stuff on their network. We have accounts over there that we'll log in with separately from ours.
So are you saying that the monies that they pay us are mostly for the expertise that we provide and essentially the professional services that we provide to help them troubleshoot and keep things up and that sort of thing?
Oh, correct.
Okay, interesting. And again, the point is our move to Office 365 is not going to change anything regarding those kinds of activities.
Correct.
I know either last year or a couple of years ago, I brought up these transfers. The way that we review the transfers is a little disconnected, I would say, because here on the IT budget, we'll see here these left school transfers. They're one lump sum, and I guess in previous years, I thought there was a trend that you could see from one fiscal year to another, but at least here in this budget that was provided, we only get to see this one latest fiscal year. I assume that's these less schools transfers or less enterprise fund transfers. This is for FY24. Is that correct?
Right.
Well, so they show it for 24 versus 23, but not going further back, right?
Does it have? Oh, okay. That's 23. Yes. Okay, I see that. All right,
But
so those
unlike
3%
this,
increases
right.
each one of those.
But unlike the stuff up top, we don't get to see the movement over time unless we go back and find the budget from last year.
The reason why I brought this up initially, and I forget the time frame, it was either last year or a couple of years ago. But I know that there was a lot of changes in the school, in the schools over time, and I believe that there was some calculation that was envisioned for this school transfer that that amounted to essentially the level that we were stuck at for a number of years. And if I remember correctly, there was a relook at the calculation either last year or a couple of years ago, and the value changed, not significantly, but there was some type of adjustment made between all these transfer accounts. Is that correct? Am I remembering correctly?
Yeah, there were a couple of times, a couple of years where they had some changes where they used to have separate munis charges for the school's portion of munis. And they just made it simpler by putting that into the overall school transfer. We had another year, so probably about 3 or 4 years ago, that the schools were outsourcing their Windows Server administration. And we were able to do that for them for less than the third-party companies. So that increased that school transfer as well. Other than that, those calculations, it's just probably a percentage base, like a 3% increase that we'll see on a normal year.
Yeah, so it looked like the increases that we're seeing in labor in general for the IT department was just spread in equal proportion across those transfers. So it's 3.1% total increase in labor for IT department, and there are 3.1% increases in each of the transfers.
Yep. That's what I see.
Which makes sense.
Okay, go ahead.
Oh yeah, no, I was just going to say it totally makes sense as long as I guess there's no differences in services between the two fiscal years, which I believe you mentioned already is going to say the same thing.
It does bring up a really good question though, Stefan, and that is how often do we review these payments and their applicability, you know, whether they're appropriate or fair to both sides? Do we do it like when people squawk, or is there a schedule for it, or?
Yeah, there hasn't been a schedule for that. We've been working well with all three different, the two enterprise funds come from water and gas and light. We work well with both those departments, and we work well with the schools. And it hasn't been something that we've really broken down and said, we're spending way too much time over here. Maybe we need to increase services. Hasn't really set us back that much that we thought we should look at that. So we've just been going with.
I was going to say, you know, with the advent of a new school, a new high school, I assume that there will be some type of operational impacts. Has there been any discussion on that front, or envisioning as to what the new school is going to entail? Yeah,
so Jeff Weiner over at the schools, he's brought me in already to review like some of the design work that they have and how it relates to technology, and we look at those together. I'll probably be pretty involved with the build out of that as far as reviewing the tech side with Jeff.
Okay.
Do you think it will end up in a net increase in school sort of call for time of you and your staff as they work into the new building, assuming that it happens?
When we get to that, it depends upon, there'll probably be, there'll be different parts that we're going to get pulled in. Like we'll probably build out the new network infrastructure. We'll program all the switches as stacks and do the design work. But we'll have, I'm sure we'll have time. It's not going to be dropped on us with, you have 3 weeks to get this ready. So we can look at a gradual, if they're going to, I doubt they're going to reuse anything that's existing, because I think the way that they're building it, you're going to have the new one ready to move in. One day you can just move right over. So the new stuff should be in. It'll be very similar to how we did Galvin, which is kind of like normal stuff for us. It was a good chance to revisit all the documentation we have, redo all our maps, and just start a fresh network out there.
Now, there's a reason that a tear down is often done on a house rather than trying to fix all the stuff that's wrong in it. It's often just easier, more economically efficient to start with new stuff.
Yeah.
Okay, Stefan, you're on a roll, man.
Yeah, sorry, no, that's like 5 years out from now, but it's a good thing that you brought up Galvin. But yeah, it looks like we've done this in the past, for not so recent past, but relatively recently. And it will have it's actually good to hear that that you've been kind of looped in on the discussion already on the school. As I mentioned, it's like we're 5 years away from it. Operations should be discussed now, because I'm sure there's going to be some pretty large budgetary impacts. Maybe not for the IT department, but other areas of the budget.
Just for that whole construction budget, yeah.
Is there any aspects of what you'll end up doing, that'll get incorporated within the IT? I'm sorry, incorporated within the project budget that we won't see here in the IT department budget? Did any of that happen during the Galvin build?
So, yeah, with Galvin and Walton, they do have, most of it comes in the form of capital though. But what you'll see is, and the same like with the public safety building that we're in the middle of now, you'll get capital improvements because they have a new wing, they're gonna need new network switches or new cameras. And that's typically built into the construction budget. They have a certain amount allocated. New wireless access points, things like that.
But you don't bill any of your time to those capital projects, right?
We haven't, because it has, public safety's taking a little more time, and we're looking into that, but we hadn't in the past, no.
I was just watching the captions, and it's amazing how it will correct itself as you finish a sentence. Very interesting.
That's what I was saying. It's really accurate.
Yeah, it's weird. A little scary even. Okay, Stefan, anything else?
I think that's it for me.
Mr. Kenny?
I'm good, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Mr. Bowden, do you have any questions for us?
Do not.
All right. Then I will entertain a motion to close this portion of the meeting and reconvene in an executive session.
Yeah, you don't want to adjourn, but should we entertain a motion to exit all right, I move to enter, I got to read the agenda. I got to get this right. You got to choose the words correctly, I think.
Where's Robert's rules when you need them?
No, it's not that. It's open meeting law.
Hmm.
You know. Sorry, bear with me.
No worries.
I move to enter executive session for the purpose of discussing IT security questions, because an open meeting may have detrimental effects to the town, with the intent of adjourning and not returning to open session immediately after.
Can I have a second?
Second.
So moved. All right, so
Aye.
Todd, go ahead, Evan.
No, just, I was saying aye, yes. I
Okay.
think you're supposed to roll call it, but yes.
Yes, all in favor of
Yes.
moving? Thank you. All right.
Sorry.
Okay. No, you're absolutely right. Me not being the king of parliamentary procedure and all.
That's all I got in these meetings. You guys taught me on everything else, so.
Okay, so Todd, will you send around a second invite? Is that how it works?
Yeah, I believe that invite is probably already there from Sherry.
Okay,
And we can end this one, and I'll see you in the next one.
Sounds good.
copy that.
All right, thanks, Todd.
Yep.